Hello friends, Stub from CorkandMe.com here, wishing you a very happy National Absinthe Day. Yes, that's a real thing, and I couldn't be more thrilled because absinthe is absolutely one of my favorite spirits, well, after pretty much every type of whiskey. But we'll get to that in a minute as well. Let's talk a little about absinthe. Absinthe dates back to the 18th century. It's usually made of a neutral grape spirit along with botanicals. The three main botanicals in absinthe are called the Holy Trinity, and that is wormwood, green anise, and fennel. Now there are other botanicals added depending on who's making it, but it normally comes out as a very fragrant, a little bit licorice flavored spirit. It's very high in alcohol. Usually you will not see an absinthe less than 65% alcohol or 130 proof. So when you're enjoying absinthe, please be careful. It's been referred to as the Green Fairy because it was thought years ago that the thujone out of the wormwood for seasoning led to hallucinations and violent behavior. That has pretty much been debunked, and the ban that was put on absinthe in many countries has recently been lifted as recently as 2007 here in the US. Now there are 5 basic styles of absinthe. Today we're only going to talk about 2. We're going to talk about what is thought of as the more traditional absinthe, the French or Swiss style. That is the most common. That's what you're going to see on all of your shelves at the groceries or at your liquor stores across the US mostly. There's also a Czech style or Bohemian style, a little rougher around the edges. The main difference in that is there is little or no anise used in the making of the Bohemian style absinthe. So let's jump right in and figure out or learn how we should actually be enjoying absinthe. Now, normally we would serve absinthe as a straight drink in a glass similar to this, but as you can see my fountain, it is hard to get that glass and a sugar cube under there, which is the traditional method. So we're gonna add about 1 ounce of absinthe to this short glass here. We're gonna put this under our fountain. Now this absinthe I'm using here is from Mount Defiance Distillery in Middleburg, Virginia. Mount Defiance is one of the only distillers in the US actually making absinthe. So then we place a sugar cube on top of our absinthe spoon. And what we're gonna do now is just open up our absinthe fountain to a drip to drip over this sugar cube. And you can do it as quickly or slowly as you would like. However, we normally want to do this in a slow drip so most of the sugar cube gets dissolved into the drink until we have anywhere between a 1 to 3 and 1 to 5 ratio, and you can do that per your taste. You see how slowly I'm opening my fountain here just so we get a slight drip, and there we are. All right, so we're gonna let this drip while it's going a little quickly. While we then discuss the other way to enjoy absinthe, and that would be the Czech style absinthe, and which I have here. I have the Beetle absinthe. Some of you may have seen this. This was brought back from the Czech Republic by a buddy of mine, Dan, when he visited last year, and ended up at my house because he thought it looked gross to have that in his home. So with the same, we're gonna add about 1 ounce of this absinthe to our glass. Now this is served a little bit differently. So we still have our absinthe spoon here, and we still use the sugar cube, except the sugar cube I'm using has actually been soaked in absinthe. So we're gonna put that over top of our spoon, and then we are going to light the sugar cube on fire. Hopefully the camera picks up this beautiful flame. Now this is also, if you let this burn all the way out, it's called cooking the absinthe. If you do decide to try this method of absinthe consumption, please be careful because you're dealing with very high proof alcohol and fire as well. Make no mind of that though, I am a pro. All right, so we're just gonna let this burn for just a minute here, and we're gonna go back to our French style absinthe with the drip. You can see we've dripped this a little more quickly, and the sugar cube is almost dissolved. I've got probably about a 1.5 ratio right now, so we're gonna let that go, and then we'll go back to the flame here. Look at this, this flame is still going. We can see our sugar bubbling up a little bit here, which is really, really awesome. And for the purposes here, I usually do about a 3 to 1 ratio, or 1 to 3 ratio, I guess. So once we're done here, we're going to pull our spoon and dip it and stir a little bit of the sugar. And you can see in there we get this little white color. Think of if you've ever had ouzo and you serve it with cold water or ice, and that is what you get. And this is meant for a delicious after dinner libation. Now, I've had a lot of absinthe over the years. I'm gonna say this Mount Defiance absinthe for my friends at the Mount Defiance Distillery. It's It's clean, it's crisp. You definitely get that anise flavor in there. You get the licorice. It's a lovely, lovely drinking absinthe. And if you can get your hands on some, if you're here in Virginia or DC or Maryland, and you can get over there and get your hands on some of this, that would be amazing. And I promise you will thank me for that. So what we have here, we have our sugar cube. It looks like there's just a little bit of flame. So we can put this in. If it's still flaming, we should see a little bit of flame come out there. And then with this, what we're gonna do is we're gonna pour cold water in a 1-to-1 ratio there. And you see we've got a little burn on this. We don't get quite the white we get from the normal dripping of absinthe. Let's go ahead and taste this absinthe. So this absinthe definitely has more of a, for lack of a better word, an alcohol flavor. Very high alcohol. It is a little rough around the edges. You get a little bit of that licorice feel from it. For me personally, not as enjoyable. However, I do enjoy the kind of theory of burning the sugar cube over and having a good time with that. All right, I'm gonna take a real quick break. You don't have to wait for me. It's just gonna flip over, get these things out of the way, and then we're gonna talk about a couple of cocktails you can make with absinthe. All right, friends, if you've ever heard me talk about cocktails, I guarantee you've heard me talk about the Sazerac. It is one of my favorite cocktails. It's made with rye whiskey, absinthe, of course, sugar, bitters. It is a delicious cocktail created in New Orleans in the late 18th century. Let's get to making this delicious cocktail. Now, to prep, what we're gonna do is do an absinthe rinse on a rocks glass. Now, recipes call for about 1/4 ounce to do this. What I have here is, well, it's a little spritzer. So we can spritz our glass so we're not wasting so much absinthe. So I like to do a good 8 or 10 or 12 or maybe sometimes 15. And the awesome thing about these little spritzers here is works great as a cologne or as breath freshener. Alternately, just pour 1/4 ounce in there or so and twirl the glass around. Now to that, because we want this glass chilled for our cocktail, we're gonna go ahead and add ice to that. Now let's get to building our actual cocktail. All right, there's the absinthe that I used for the drink. So to start, we're gonna add 2 ounces of rye whiskey. Right there. And then to that, we are going to add a couple, and when I say couple, 3 or 4 dashes of Peychaud's bitters. Now, some recipes will call for this, some won't. I also like to add just 1 dash of also Angostura bitters. It helps to make the cocktail a little spicier. Now, recipes also will call for a cube of sugar, hard to dissolve in a cold drink. Some recipes will also call for simple syrup. 1 extra dash of that and your drink is way too sweet. I like to take a bar spoon and put about 1/2 teaspoon of just fine sugar in my cocktail. Now, we're gonna add ice to our glass here and take our bar spoon and we're gonna stir this for a good 20 or so seconds. All right, so we are done stirring our cocktail. Now we're gonna take our glass, dispose of our ice, and take our strainer and strain our drink into our washed glass here. All right, and then we're gonna take a lemon peel and we're gonna express that lemon peel to get those oils over the glass, and then we're gonna take and rim the glass with the lemon peel. Some recipes call for putting it in, some don't. I like to put it in personally. I use orange peel a lot of time instead of lemon as well. Let's see how well I've done today. It's such a great cocktail. It's got the bite of the rye, the sugar, sweetens it just a hair, and that absinthe adds just the perfect kick to that cocktail. Now we're gonna go 1 more absinthe cocktail before we end the video today. And we're doing a death in the afternoon cocktail. Now this cocktail was created by and consumed a lot by Ernest Hemingway himself. It's a very simple recipe. We're gonna take 1 ounce of absinthe. Now he calls for 1.5 ounces. I'm gonna do maybe about 1 ounce in a champagne flute, maybe a little bit less because this is a potent cocktail. And then what we're gonna do is top that off with sparkling wine. He calls for champagne. I'm using, as you can see here, a little small bottle of Prosecco. Pour carefully once you've poured spirits into a champagne flute when you pour bubbly wine over top. There we go. You can see we get a little green tint as we poured. That helps to mix the drink with the effervescence. Here we go. It's got just the right kick. I know Champagne enthusiasts or purists are going to say this is ridiculous. Absinthe purists are going to say this is ridiculous. This is an amazing little cocktail. Hemingway recommended having 2 or 3 of these over the course of the afternoon and enjoying your early evening. I don't know that I could do that, especially if I mix them as heavily as he did. All right, friends. Hey, thanks for joining me. Once again, happy National Absinthe Day. What we have the traditional French absinthe we went through. We did the Bohemian absinthe. We did a perfect Sazerac, and then of course we did a death in the afternoon. Any questions, comments? Hey, tell me I didn't make these recipes right. I'll take the credit, take the flack on that if you so think. Although my Sazeracs, they're not award-winning, but they are very famous. All right, friends, thanks for joining me. Have a wonderful, happy, healthy Tuesday. Happy Mardi Gras to those of you celebrating, and have a great Lent for that. Thanks for joining me. Until next time, be nice, be safe, and be happy. Cheers, friends.